The problem with In Vogue today is that Terry and Cindy aren't artists. They're basically singers for hire. At least that's how they act.
This is a Culture Inject production.
Welcome back to another episode of Part of Us in Vogue Fancast. Before we get started, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at In Vogue Craze and on Twitter at Part of Us Fancast. Want to get in touch with us? Write us a letter or record a voice message and email it to us at partofusevf@gmail.com. If you're enjoying Part of Us, please consider leaving us an Apple Podcast rating and review. Let's get to it. This first segment is, of course, what's trending and catching up on all EV news. And the first on our list is the Singers Room's Simon Robinson published a piece naming the top 10 best In Vogue songs. Included on the list were Too Gone Too Long, that came in at number 1, Don't Let Go at number 2, and Don't Go Sitting Cute at number 3. We'll link the piece in our show notes for listeners. What are your thoughts on his ranking?
I think Simon was smoking some strong stuff when he wrote that list. Too Gone Too Long, it's a cute song for around the house on a Saturday morning when you're cleaning up, but to be their number one best song, that is insane.
I love the strings on Too Gone Too Long. I think from the list that he likes like a big vocal performance. And so Too Gone Too Long, it is some big vocals. It's a big note in the, in that bridge, I guess, or I think it's a bridge. Terry goes off. So I think Simon likes the big vocals. If you have Too Gone Too Long, Don't Let Go, Don't Go, those aren't, more so the up-tempo stuff. I would just say regarding the list, it's just always kind of boring to me when someone picks, all singles. I like if someone's going to do a list, like they can really do a deep dive and pick some stuff where I'm like, oh, I wasn't expecting you to name that song. Like that's a deep album cut, but it was pretty much any song that had a video, was on there. So that was kind of boring for me.
That actually is pretty valid. And I also like all three of the songs in the top 3 are all like slow songs. And I'm like, the girls don't just give great vocals and the song is just good because it's like a ballad or like a slow, sultry single. Like they have good vocals. I'm like, Free Your Mind is probably one of their most vocal heavy songs. So I'm like, why wouldn't that be in the top 3? You know what I mean? So although Too Gone Too Long is one of my favorite songs.
Don't Let Go. That is delusional.
The strings.
Ciao.
Maybe because it's Diane Warren, maybe.
Oh, that is true. We talked about Diane Warren in the payola.
Exactly.
Did Diane Warren pay the Singers Room to put her song at number 1?
Look,
because that must be it. Because ain't no way Too Gone Too Long would end up in the top. Even out of EV3 songs, I would put whatever above Too Gone Too Long, but I guess.
I would too, because the vocals on Whatever are just amazing. Too Gone Too Long is definitely one of my favorite In Vogue songs. It's just a beautiful ballad. But yeah, as number 1, sorry Simon, you're on an island on your own, and it's called Delusion. Okay.
And who told you could even write it? You should have left it up to one of us, a real fan, Simon. See, this is just what I'm talking about.
Consulted.
Opinion.
You should have consulted the pod before posting, before publishing such a list.
For real. And just while we're talking about it, like, what song is this like a deep cut that you would say, what would you even think would be ahead of Too Gone Too Long?
That's not a single? You mean like an album track?
Yeah, album track.
I would put a lot before Too Gone Too Long. I'll put Sitting by Heaven's Door before Too Gone Too Long. I would put oh my god, what's the song from Masterpiece Theater? What is the song that Love Won't Take Me Out? That is my jam. Like I would put that before Too Gone Too Long. No Can't Come Back would go before Too Gone Too Long. Desire would go before Too Gone Too Long.
Desire,
Hooked on Your
really?
Love will go before that.
Really?
Well, you just don't like Too Gone Too Long, it seems like.
I mean, I used to love it when it came out because I was a big fan of like the Diane Warren R&B singers who did her songs back in the 90s, but it just hasn't aged well for me. There are a lot of artists, a lot of producers and songwriters who were really popular during that time that I still enjoyed their songs. Like, you know, I still enjoy like Babyface and Daryl Simmons and Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. I still enjoy a lot of their stuff from that era, but most of the Diane Warren songs don't really have the same lasting effect for me. There are a few of them, like Unbreak My Heart and
Have You
Ever. There are a few, but a lot of it is just real sappy. Like, I don't feel the same way about it anymore.
I love a good ballad just because I love a good bridge and a good like high point coming back into the chorus. I feel like Too Gone Too Long has it hits all the beats that's supposed to make a great song. It hits the beats for me, but I mean I would even put Give It Up, Turn It Loose before.
But that's a single though.
Oh, we did say deep cuts. That's true. Yeah. It's an interesting list, but not before. Don't Let Go should definitely be like the first. It should be the first.
I mean, anytime Miss Robinson is on lead, I mean, it's always a moment.
And I would
like to see more representation for the newer stuff. I think Rocket, could maybe best some of the stuff on there. But getting into some upcoming En Vogue tour dates, En Vogue is set to perform at the High Point Market in April. The ladies will headline the Center Stage concert series that runs from April 22nd through 23rd and will take the stage Saturday, April 22nd. The concert is open to registered High Point Market attendees. A valid Spring 23 Market Pass is required for entry. Doors open at 6:30 p.m. with the concert beginning at 7 p.m. Early entry for buyers at 6:15 p.m. And no, this is not a paid promotion. I don't know why we went into such detail. Maybe we have a lot of fans in High Point, North Carolina. When I think of High Point, North Carolina, I think of Miss Fantasia Barrino. But En Vogue is performing there. I saw that they performed at the Remax 50th anniversary private event in Las Vegas. They performed at Howard University for Charter Day. So they've just been performing a lot of places. I'm still waiting on confirmation of if they're performing with Charlie Wilson at the Hollywood Bowl in July so I can get my ticket. But keep going, En Vogue. Keep on rocking.
Please.
Speaking of rocks.
So, are we glad that En Vogue did not participate in a reality show after having seen Escape in SWV's new Bravo show?
No, I'm not happy. I'm not. No. One, I'm going to say this. But Ted, I know you haven't seen the show. I know you're not going to watch it. I know. But SWV and Escape's new show is a really good. For me, I was like, I hope they don't regurgitate info that we already know, but they brought it in to kind of introduce them, but it became a whole new thing. Like it seems they're very vulnerable, they're very candid, they're very real. Now, I would have loved to see En Vogue, one, a part of this tour, because they deserve the same recognition, the same flowers they're getting, as at least in a mainstream way, the same from the Black audience, the same way SWV and Escape get. Now, I'm not saying that En Vogue has to participate in the foolery of it all. You don't have to argue. You ain't got to put all your business out. But I will say that because they're iconic, I feel like they would have been a great addition to the show, because they kind of add like a grace and a class to it, and because they all have stories that need to be told too. You know, Cindy with her divorce and trying to figure out what's going on next, and then Rona being a new wife, and then new music, etc., and then doing a tour with these other iconic groups. I think that would have been hot for them in the sense that they're not a part of it.
I personally would not have wanted them to do it because they wouldn't have kept it real. Like, if you're going to do a reality show, you got to show the good, the bad, the ugly. You got to let us in. And I think En Vogue, being that they're old school, they're really concerned with what they put out there and perception and stuff like that. So I think if they were to do anything reality based, it would be very cookie cutter and fake. And so
very Oprah owned network.
I want to happy. But at the end of the day, though, I just think that we all know that groups go through stuff, and I think seeing you go through it, but seeing you get over it and work together and showing us how you guys come together even when you've just had an argument, or even how do you deal with problems when you don't agree on something, or if two people want to do something and the other person wants to do something else, like how do you guys work through those things? I think that's interesting to see, but I just don't think they would ever let us behind the curtain like that. So here we are.
That's fine for me. I'm not a reality person per se. Like, I do see clips and things like that. I see GIFs and stuff like that. So I know, of course, Ooh Child, The Ghetto, all that stuff. Am I going to sit and watch a whole episode? I don't think I could tolerate a whole episode of, Nene Leakes and Kenya Moore and all the little, I know Nene's not on there anymore, but I'm just saying, like, I don't think I just have the patience to watch other people's lives that much. Like, so some things might be funny here, some things might be funny there, but with In Vogue, like I've gone on record saying this. We had a whole episode called Reality Bites in Vogue, and we talked about whether or not they should do reality TV. I don't think so. I really would like them to see I would like to see them, like they said they're going to do, make new music. Rona said something about a summer tour, so I don't know if that just meant like, what they always do with just spot dates throughout the summer, or actual them joining a tour, but that'll be interesting to see what unfolds in the summer. Like I said, there's a rumor that they're going to perform at the Hollywood Bowl with Charlie Wilson on July 12th, so I don't know if he's going on tour and they're going to be his opening act or what. I don't know, but like that's what I would like for In Vogue. I would like to see them on Girls 5 Eva. Renee Elise Goldsberry said like if she could have, pick any guest to come on the show,
Truth.
It would be In Vogue. She didn't name SWB and Escape, of course. So I would like to see them in that type of vein. Like, reality TV is too easy to do. You can go on Zeus, you can go on Tubi. It's just a little too cheap.
Absolutely not.
For Vogue. And
we gonna know Zeus.
And
nobody
when I looked at the ratings,
Zeus.
when I saw the ratings for the show, I was like, oh my God, it couldn't even hit 1 million with those two groups. It couldn't even maintain the lead-in from Potomac that went off. It couldn't even hit 700,000 views. And it's a Sunday night, so I just felt very. The viewership is going to increase. I guarantee. Well, I will take your word for that.
You have to understand that first day viewings, the network is looking at.
It was ratings plus 2.
They're looking at recordings, the DVRs, and the on-demand stuff as well. But
and it still can hit 1 million. I saw it. I
didn't watch it when it premiered. I watched it like later on.
It was +2.
Child, none of those shows over there at Bravo are getting 1 million viewers, if we being honest.
I bet if I pull up Lisa Vanderpump Rules, I'm sure she's not
at 1 million either. I just saw it. Her show was at between 700,000 or 800,000. No, like Atlanta doesn't even do 1 million. They started doing 1 million viewers like towards the end of their season and the reunion. Potomac hasn't hit 1 million at all this past season. So it's like,
okay, so if I want In Vogue to do a reality show, I want it to at least have 1 million viewers for the premiere. Even LaToya Jackson was able to do that on Life with LaToya on a Saturday night.
But some people watch 3 days. Some people watch a week later. Right. Some people wait till the season is over to binge it. Like there's so many ways for people to watch TV now that watching day of or even 2 days afterwards is not going to be accurate. Like, look at All American. All American was on first season was not a popular show until it hit Netflix, and people binge watch on Netflix, and then on season 2 that percentage spiked up real quick. So what? And plus there is a clip and we're talking about Escape too much. There is a clip from the show with Tamika and Latasha and their feud or whatever that has gone viral. And it's those type of moments that are going to bring in more viewers to see how that plays out. So it's just about marketing. Now, I will say that there is a blueprint for reality TV as it stands now that exists, that I understand why a group like In Vogue or even fans like us would be hesitant to have them be a part of it. I understand that fact. But I just feel like, what else are you doing? Etc.
No, I have a question since we're mentioning reality TV. So I know that, what about TLC, who is, I guess they are labeled the biggest girl group ever, and they've done a couple of VH1 where they did a show on UPN. Chili has done her own show for a few seasons on VH1.
And she's singing down that white boy now, right? Who's related to that guy from Blossom.
Matthew Lawrence.
Yes.
Matthew Lawrence, yes.
So, I mean, if the biggest selling girl group in the world can find purpose in reality TV, I'm just saying, it might not be a bad idea to figure out
There's a way to do it.
Well, they said Janet is trying to find purpose on reality TV too, and she's, I don't think. Now, I might speculate about a lot of people's money, but I won't speculate. Janet Jackson, you haven't
Janet?
heard?
She's doing a documentary.
Well, what I was going to say is I think that's a good idea in that context, because it's like a tour. Like, there's a reason for you being on there. It's not just, let's work out our problems and all this stuff, and it's about everything but the music. And this will be the last thing I say regarding Escape, an SWV show. And I hope this one, after all of the other cancellations and all of the other fails that they've had trying to do reality TV, and they're not really doing anything for them. And after all of the sexual assault allegations and, what happened with T.I. and the restaurants closing and people getting shot and murdered at the restaurant and the food being nasty, allegedly, I really hope it does well for them. But for In Vogue's sake, I would just say that if they were to do something, I would like it to be along the lines of music, because that's what I know you as. I'm not too into your personal lives unless you can make like a really great personal album, and put that into your art and your craft.
I respect that. This week's episode is an all mailbag episode. That's right. We're emptying out the mailbox and reading your letters. First up is an email from Javon Francis. Hi, Javon. And Javon says, hi, guys.
I remember Javon. Remember Javon?
I think so.
We got a letter from Javon before.
Yeah, I think so. I recognize the name. So Javon says, hey guys, how do you think the career of In Vogue would have been if Terry never joined? Oh, I remember they were originally supposed to be a threesome like the Supremes, and they later added Terry because of her wonderful voice. Do you think Evie would have had the same success, been less successful, or more successful? Do you think they would have lasted long? How do you think they would have looked today as a group? That's a good question.
This is a really good question.
Us think. Giving us a thought-provoking questions.
When I think about this question, where my mind goes is the breakup, right? I feel like if Terry wasn't there, Cindy wouldn't have had a partner in crime to kind of. oh wait, hold on. Okay, Craig, hold on. If Terry wasn't there, Cindy wouldn't have had a partner in crime to kind of push Dawn out. And I feel like Dawn and Maxine would have more of a voice. I do feel like they would have had maybe more success just because it's easier for a threesome, budget wise, lead wise, etc., etc. It would be interesting to see like who would have did the iconic who would have did that.
Dawn.
It would have been Dawn.
Because what I've always felt about Dawn and Terry is that I feel like their voices they kind of are in the similar lane to each other in terms of their tone and their range. You know what I'm saying? Like, because if you think
Dawn
about,
doesn't have the chest belting, and I think that's the key difference.
if you think about like giving him something he can feel and Hooked on Your Love from Funky Divas, like both are the Curtis Mayfield remakes, and you know they both had lead on both of those songs. They just I don't know, that they have a lot of similarities to me, but they're different.
I think it's funny you say that because I'm thinking about a comment that I saw on an In Vogue video where they like it was like the In Vogue vocal range video. And so it started with Maxine, then it was Cindy, then it was Dawn, and then it was Terry. And I don't know if that was the posters, the order was based on the poster's opinion of who was the best. But one of the comments was like, okay, Terry is the one who has a core to her voice. I think Terry is the only one who really has like the powerful lower belts. So if people don't know what I'm talking about, think Whitney Houston, I Will Always Love You, the belt, that's the climax of the song. I don't think any of the other members besides Rona could do that because their voices just are naturally, will start mixing way too much to where it's kind of maybe more so shrill, whereas hers, it still sounds very low and solid. So knowing how big Hold On was and really that intro, like, I don't think Dawn could have done that. Dawn developed vocal problems very early into Born to Sing because I think she likes to like strain and sing higher than maybe she should. And so I just felt like people really underestimate how important that was. But anytime they went on any show and they did that a cappella part and she led it, and I just think she has like the strongest voice. Do I think she has the best voice? So maybe we can have a whole episode on who we think has the best voice or where we rank the members vocally. So I'm not going to say that. I'm just saying as far as belting and having a powerful voice, hers is the most powerful. Definitely on like when you're not all the way up there like belting very high, which all of them can do. But like the lower belts, like to give, Whitney Houston, the Deborah Cox, you think about people who, it's like it's coming from their chest. She's the only one who could do that. So without her, you lose like a big source of power. I don't think Cindy and Maxine have like the traditional powerhouse vocals that you would think of when you're thinking of like R&B music. So then you would just maybe have Dawn, who's more so like the kind of Chaka Khan when she's up there, but not like the lower Chaka Khan. So then too much is missing vocally without Terry.
I can see that.
And I don't think they would have lasted as long without Terry. I think Terry, she's just very pragmatic. So maybe they could have been more successful in spurts, but I feel like Dawn is she's a mercurial, she is tempestuous, and she would have left. I don't care who was in it. It could have been a group full of her sisters. So she would have left, and then Cindy and Maxine, I don't really know what their relationship. I never really could read Cindy and Maxine's relationship. I don't think that's when we really explore. When we explore dynamics, it's always Cindy and Terry, Dawn versus Terry, Dawn versus Maxine, or Dawn and Maxine together, depending on the day, because, they've had their beef. But Cindy and Maxine, I wonder, they were the two eldest. I wonder how they would, if it was just them after Dawn left, what they would have done.
If Terry wasn't, I feel like if Terry wasn't in a group, she's in a group. If she wasn't in a group, I could see the group going in a more like hip hop direction, with Dawn and Maxine kind of spearheading that. I feel like Tommy and Denny maybe would have lost a little bit creative control around after Funky Divas.
I think if Terry was in there, Tommy and Denny definitely would have been gone.
Yeah, because especially because because Dawn was so edgy and she had the attention of so many other labels. I feel like they would have started to after Funky Divas. I could see them like trying to fashion a sound around a new look for In Vogue, and it would have been more edgy. It would have been more trendy. They probably would have more rap features, kind of like how Mariah Carey did. I could see them going in that direction. I could see that. But thank you for the question, Javon. We appreciate you. Thanks for listening and subscribing.
Thank you, Javon. And now we're getting into an email from Kai, and Kai is about to rock your socks.
Oh God.
Kai says, the problem with In Vogue today is that I'm sorry. The problem with In Vogue today is that Terry and Cindy aren't artists. They're basically singers for hire. At least that's how they act. They're happy just showing up and singing their tried and true songs, going through the motions. If they were true artists, they'd be exploring different genres and producers with whom to collaborate. The same goes for their style and the way they present themselves to us. If it wasn't for Rona, we'd have no variety in the group's look. Say what you will about Don's crazy ass, and that's what Kai said. That was not me, so don't come at me with that. I do too much with Don. That's what Kai said. Say what you will about Don's crazy ass, at least she was open to experimenting with a group sound. What is it going to take to make Terry and Cindy wake up? I hope Rona has creative say in the group because she's the only one that I have faith in right now, at least when it comes to exploring other sounds and looks. But what say you, part of us boys? What say you, JP and Champ, to Kai's letter?
I say Kai hit the nail on the head. I think everything is 100% accurate. I think there is definitely a difference between a singer and an artist.
True, I agree with that.
I think, yeah, Terry and Cindy are definitely singers. I haven't really seen the artistic aspect from them in recent years anyway. But I think part of it is just that, you know, they're going through the motions and they're doing what they do to earn a living. And maybe in some cases that's easier than trying to be creative and spend money on something that may or may not, you know, prove profitable.
Mm-hmm. You know, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, I think it's just really interesting because I've heard people use that term artist a lot lately and just what it means to be an artist and or to be a creative and kind of what that looks like. And yeah, I do think that is kind of missing from them. And when we talk about their outfits or their, you know, their styling as of late, it doesn't feel like they are pushing the envelope.
I actually never considered this point of view, but I can definitely validate it to an extent. We in the previous episode we talked about, you know, how on EV3, you know, Denny and Tommy were not involved in EV3 as much. And then they ended up going back to FMOB for Masterpiece Theater. And we had you know, it was conjecture, but we kind of like explored like, oh, maybe the ladies were fearful about exploring something new and they rather retreat to what was comfortable and what worked in the past. So I feel like, and I can kind of connect that with Destiny's Child. Like when Destiny's Child went from being a foursome to another foursome to a threesome. And then they had more, then they catapulted into more mainstream fame as a threesome. And then after Destiny, The
Writings on the Wall?
Survivor album?
Survivor?
No, after Survivor, they ended up, you know, splitting up. And all three went and became solo artists, you know, and they all wanted to find themselves as women and as artists. You know what I mean? I really do believe that, you know, them coming back and doing Destiny Fulfilled would not have been as impactful if Beyonce, Kelly, and Michelle did not find their own voice outside of the group. And although Terry did do a solo project on her own, you know, it wasn't as commercially successful, whatever, but that was still under the label, and the label was still like, you know, pulling the strings with that.
It was
whatever.
Tommy and Denny.
But I feel like
it was their project,
right? But I feel like exactly. So it's like once I feel like Cindy and Terry have not really had the opportunity to really find themselves as artists alone. I mean, Maxine is doing it right now. We're literally looking at her go back into artist development as she releases different songs and works with other producers. And, you know, she's trying to find that sound. Who is Maxine right now? You know, and Dawn was doing, I mean, lo and behold, Dawn has a longer discography as a solo artist than most of them. You know what I mean? And Rona, I feel like the reason why she adds such a freshness to the group is because she had a solo career. She had a brand and a look and a sound before the ladies as an artist and as a writer. So I feel like she has her own perspective that adds to the group, that makes it more modern and that brings it to the forefront of the industry now. And without that, In Vogue probably wouldn't have, been, where they are right now in that regard. So I could agree, it's the difference between being a singer and an artist.
There's maybe budget issues. And I'll give an example with Jade. Jade talked about, well, it wasn't Jade. It was Joy Marshall from Jade. She did this podcast called the Baggy Jeans Podcast with the interviewer from, I guess, the United Kingdom. And she, she had music industry experience before joining Jade. I think the group was actually named after her. Her and her two friends, and two of her friends weren't able to make it into the group, so the other ladies came in. But long story short, she was saying that and this interview was maybe at the most recent. It couldn't have been any time before 2020. And at the time of the interview, she said that they still owe their label $1 million. And I'm like, Jade never gave us big budget to me. So how do you owe the label $1 million? And she said there was a clause in their contracts that, said that even if they weren't able to recoup via royalties, they could recoup via songwriting credits. So there's this big issue of recoupment. And so depending on who you work with, the recoupment could be, a lot higher. And so with EV3, maybe In Vogue ended up owing money because, having Tommy and Denny being signed to them and having them be your producers, you're not, paying out of pocket. Maybe the studio time is free. Whereas when you work with Babyface, you're paying a lot of money. Then you have to go and re-record it because Don wanted to act funky, so you have to go in and re-record stuff. So that's just running up the tab. So maybe with EV3, they ended up owing money and that scared them. I don't know. But that's the grace I'll give. Maybe it's a financial thing, but then too, it's you are still making money. You can still an arrangement, it doesn't cost you anything to change an arrangement. So I'm with you actually. I'm totally with you. I'm just trying to figure out why they do things the way that they do. But even you mentioned Rona, Rona came in as a songwriter. She has, people that she songwrites with, but you look at Electric Cafe, it's kind of she's blocked now and all that she could write is Tommy and Denny are okay, well, we have this, you could add your verse here instead of her being able to bring songs to the project as a writer. And why not? She's a member. I would think that would be cost effective, right? But no. So I don't know why they aren't operating more so from just a point of, this is, our bread and butter. This is how we make our money as opposed to it being an art. Because it is lucrative. They've been touring for years. So I don't know, but I do agree. I wish they would, try to look at what they're doing as an art form more so than just, a source of income.
Well, we have another letter from Remy, who's in Wellington, New Zealand.
New Zealand. Shout out to New Zealand.
Hey, everybody. Great podcast. I love it. What would be one thing you would bring back from In Vogue's past? For example, Terry and Cindy in peak vocal shape, or one former member returning to the group. Maybe the backing of a major record label so they could get better outfits, makeup, hair, photo shoots, and time and dance rehearsals to learn new and complex choreography. I would bring back the financial backing of a major label for sure. What about you?
First of all, Remy, you just read the ladies down.
I mean, you really did. Just read them.
This is actually a great question. Y'all are giving us some good questions.
I know what I want.
You go first.
Okay.
Go first.
If I could pick any one thing, it'll be their multimedia tie-ins, meaning the cameos on television shows and movies, because I'm thinking, I just talked about recoupment. I'm still thinking, they maybe don't want to put money into themselves too much because, in the past, they were doing that. And then when it gets recouped, they're making less money. So maybe, they for some reason committed to that. And so even with the backing of a major record label, what they're going to be taking that money out of their royalties. And so maybe they don't want to do that. But if you're on a television show, which is, I guess, why so many people so many musicians wanted to go to Hollywood is because Hollywood is really putting everything up front for you. So, you know, the photo shoots and all that stuff, like where musicians are, you have to pay for all that stuff. Like, you know, Hollywood, you know, really takes care of the people. So if they're on a show looking good, if they're on a show, you know, like a Girls Five Eva or a show where, you know, they record music, you know, just for the show, like like all the shows are original songs. Like that's what I would really love.
Okay. Off subject for a quick minute. Is it this Girls Five Eva show must be good because you always reference it. Is it good?
I've never watched it. I just know that Renee Elise Goldsberry said that she would like them to guest on it. It's a show about like it's funny. It's a show about like a girl group. You've heard about it. It's a show about a girl group who
they reunite.
You know, like the one hit wonders in like the late 1990s. They reunite because a rapper samples them and like, but they get to record all these new songs. Well, maybe they like all of the songs that they're doing are original songs, of course, because you know they're a fictional group, and it'll just be fun. Like if In Vogue had a story arc on there, and Renee Elise Goldsberry shouted them out. So I'm just trying to speak it into existence because I would like that would be hot. I think it got nominated for an Emmy. You know,
ooh, if In Vogue was like one of their. If In Vogue was like their rival group, that would
wouldn't
be
it
great.
be? And they got to be villains for like 5 or 6 episodes. They get to wear all these fabulous clothes and stuff. Because otherwise, I really think if they're not a part of like a studio or somebody paying for it, they're not going to put their own money up. Maybe because in the past they were spending so much on trying to be fly. You know, they spend a lot of their money trying to give a certain look. So that's why I'm picking. That's why that's my pick. What
is your choice, JP?
The backing of a major label. And not so they can afford better outfits, but just so they can make better music. And actually, you know, like promote their projects. And like, I would love for them to have the machine behind them. Like back in the day, you know, that Funky Divas era, that the machine was working overtime. And that machine encompasses everything. That encompasses the TV appearances and, you know, the commercials and, you know, all of those things. It's like when you got that money behind you making things happen, I think that's how you really make the most impact.
Yeah, but then you have to pay
and
that
I
back.
miss those days.
That's the only thing.
True. I mean, there are ways to pay it back. I feel like so I will agree, and I say I would bring back the financial backing of a major label as well. And I feel like with that, a major label would also push them into doing things that they probably wouldn't want to do as independent artists. You know what I mean? Which probably will be reality TV. Unfortunately for you, Bazan. But I feel like a label would, you know, push them to do things they don't want to do. You just can do more, like, especially like nowadays, you know, these labels have new producers on their roster, new artists on their roster. So like with the financial backing and even just with the label in general, like, you know, you can work with some of the hottest producers in the game now and get like a new hit, you know, record on Billboard or whatever. Like you can collaborate with some great people, you know, like, seeing SZA collab with In Vogue.
I would love
Like
that. Oh my God, I would love that. I'm starting to
get
into SZA, and I would love, especially her and Rona. I would love to see her and Rona on the track together. That would be so hot.
Yeah. Or just like the working, like even In Vogue being featured on stuff, like with other rappers and art, like, you know, with being with the label, these teams, their job is to work on ways for you to make money, which in turn makes the label money. So the resources that would be at their disposal would be insurmountable. And you can't pay for it. You know what I mean? It's like, you can't duplicate that in any kind of way as an independent artist. Just like, just the financial backing, like, there's no contest for that. So that's my answer as well. Remy, this was a really good question, and thank you for listening all the way from New Zealand. Like, we appreciate you taking the time out, you know.
Yeah, shout out to Oceania, Remy. Look at you. Look at you, Remy.
It's nice to know that pettiness is a worldwide phenomenon. And our last email comes from friend of the show,
dun, dun, dun,
Justice Jackson. Yes, our bestie Justice. And Justice says, Hey y'all, hey, it's Justice. That's Mr. Jackson to you, Matan.
Wait, what did he say?
He says, hey y'all, hey, it's Justice. And in parentheses, he says, that's Mr. Jackson to you, Matan.
I guess I just can't hear it. I'm not hearing anything.
No, can you hear me now?
I'm just kidding. I'm shading Justice. I can't hear him.
Oh, I was like, wait. I can't stand you. I was like, wait. I was like, is my mic okay?
I'm just playing Justice. You know I have love for you. It might not be a lot, but I have some of it.
Yes. So he says, anyways, I'm back bugging you guys again with another letter, LOL. Wonderful episode, you guys. In Vogue's A Different World appearance is definitely one of my favorites. I like how they stayed committed to the awkward, dorky roles through the performance. Those books were a little spicy, but boy, Mr. Dickey was sure an Evie stan. I love to see it. I honestly feel like it speaks volumes to how influential our ladies are, and they really deserve their flowers all across the board. Speaking of flowers, that cover they did, I give it a D-. If it were in the hands of better producers, no shade to Foster and McElroy, but let's keep it 100. They're very semi-hit and miss. And it really enhances my pet peeve with that lineup. They needed a solid alto for the lower harmonies. Amanda did her best, but it wasn't giving. Ooh, okay. Lastly,
he's on it today. He is on it today.
Rebounding real quick. Y'all remember when I said Shanice would have been a good replacement member? Well, come to find out, that was almost a reality. An interview clip was posted on Instagram where Shanice stated Terry asked her to join the group, but turned it down due to her being pregnant at the time.
Ladies, but back then, did you consider like, dang, I wish I was in a girl group, or were you happy that you were solo?
I never really thought about it, but you know what? Right after I married Flex, and I got pregnant same year I got married. But Terry from In Vogue, she reached out to me and asked me if I would join In Vogue. So I could have been in Vogue, and the timing just wasn't right. So I had the opportunity to be in Vogue.
Imagine how that would have worked out. And for the listener, and he says, tens across the board. I can't wait for the next episode. Keep up the good work. Out. Peace.
I don't think Shanice is a funky diva.
Gagged. I'm gagged too a little bit.
I think Shanice is a great vocalist. I just don't like the choreography and all that stuff. Like Shanice just seems like she's just a ball of sunshine and stuff. Like I can't see her doing whatever. It's just like the attitude and sass that I would need for a member of In Vogue. I just don't think she has it. And that's not a slight to her because I love Shanice. I've loved her since I Love Your... Even before I Love Your Smile, I liked the KFC commercial she did when she was little. So I love Shanice. It's just that it doesn't fit to me. Maybe vocally it fits, but just the overall, just what I think of when I think of In Vogue, which is like a sassy, kick-ass, badass woman, just dripping with attitude. That's not Shanice.
Well, when have they given that?
Am I loving you never gonna get it when Terry's literally slapping that man down?
No, I mean, as of late, I haven't seen that from In Vogue since like 97.
I mean, even Riddle, like you have to look at Rona. They did a performance actually in Virginia at the Birchmere, and there's a performance of Riddle, and it's not even the whole song. Like it's like kind of spliced up, but like Rona comes on. And it's like just the way she did it. Like I'm like, okay, that is so In Vogue. It's just like the sass, and I think that's kind of like the salient. When people talking about In Vogue, one of like the salient parts of the group is the sass. Ron is just so sassy, and I think that's when people are talking about In Vogue, particularly women. It's like just the sass. So I think you have to have that to be a member, and I think that's why I didn't care for Aurora and Shanice. I love Shanice, but I just don't think she has the sass that I need for a member of In Vogue.
I think, I agree with you. I think that's valid. However, I feel like in this day and age, people want less sass and more humanity. Save the sass for the stage. But when it's just like you trying to connect with fans, just give us something. And In Vogue comes from an era of the industry that is very rehearsed, that is very A&R, you know, where the answers are very politically correct and very astute. And I feel like Shanice being like this ball of sunshine would kind of have added a personality to In Vogue that they probably didn't have before. You know what I mean?
But this is what year did they ask her to do? Is this EV3 era or recent?
I would assume it was around when Dawn left. They were looking for like a fourth. I would assume.
Shanice said she was pregnant, so let's do the math. Let's see. Her daughter was born in 2001, and her son was born in 2004. So this had to be after Masterpiece Theater when Maxine. Oh,
that's left. When Maxine left. Oh, yeah. So Shanice would have been.
By that point, she would have
taken. She would have taken Amanda's role. Yeah, because at that point in time, they did a Christmas album and they were just singing. They were just doing a nostalgia group, like performing and whatever. So I feel like, yeah, I could see Shanice doing what Amanda was doing. Just a little better. Yeah, I can see it.
I would like maybe.
Sure.
I just think that is so interesting. Like, I would have loved to have seen that. And I think that would have been even like a good headline, like, you know, because Shanice has her own, you know, notoriety. So like a notable figure going into In Vogue who has a notable name. It's like, maybe their powers combined can, you know, can really like be a cute moment. That would have been nice, but you know.
I agree. I mean, like I said earlier, like how it was cool to kind of see Rona, who was a solo artist, you know, come into the equation and complete it and add her flair to the group. So it would have been cool like to see Shanice, who had, you know, success as a solo artist, you know, come into the group and like add her flair as well. Thank you, Justice, as always. We always love hearing from you on the show.
And when he says we, he means himself, JP, and Josh. No, you're not getting. I'm just messing with Justice. Nothing. I'm saying when you said we, you meant everybody but me. But it's a joke. We have an inside thing going on. We're getting into our rare track of the day. Shout out to Marco. Our rare track of the day is Expiration Day. It is from the album Roughtown Presents In Vogue. It was released in 2015. We don't know who wrote it. We don't know who produced it. But what do we think about it?
I did not like it. I was into it when the music started. I was like, okay, this is like a interesting sound, like, you know, very much early 2000s R&B. But I didn't like the cadence of Maxine delivering her verse.
Absence is supposed to make the heart grow fonder. But baby, you took way too much time. Have you ever heard of out of sight, out of mind? Well, that's what happened to you this time. Oh.
And then I was like, all these puns and like sayings. I was like, where's the melody? And then we got to the chorus. I was like, okay, here we go. Here goes the song. But I don't think it was a good start. It definitely sounded like, you know, a sample of something, or like a throwaway demo that I'm like, I know why I didn't make the cut. I mean, maybe it did make the cut, but no one liked it. So it's expired for me.
It expired. It expired before it even got released. I thought it was horrible. The production was horrible. I kind of like some of it. I won't be here tomorrow. Like, some of the harmonies were okay, but it just put me in the mind of maybe Written All Over Your Face or something by the Rude Boys. I don't know, like something about it is like, okay, whoever did this song, they based it around another song and kind of changed some stuff, because it's reminding me of something, but it's poorly produced. It sounds like a rough demo, not even a produced demo. Just bad all around. I didn't care for Maxine's vocal. Some of the harmonies were okay, maybe barely, but it was just it's a no. Another no from me.
Well, was okay. I think it had potential. I think the production just sounded like it was done on a Casio keyboard. I think had that been improved, I think it had potential. Long story short, I don't mind it. Like when it comes on my shuffle, you know, I might not turn immediately.
There ain't nothing. It's as if I had a best if used by date, but I'm just amused by you. Thinking I was your fool while you were being untrue. I'm saying this about your deadline, boy. I've got an instead line. I ain't putting up with it no more. I'm gonna get gone. I'm gonna move on.
Like I said, like when it got to the latter part of the song, it got better for me. But I'm like, if you don't catch me in the first 30 to 60 seconds, I'm changing the song. You know, so I feel like they failed in that regard. Because I was kind of like, what is this delivery? Like, what is this cadence? Where's the rhythm at? I was like, what's happening? So, but
yeah, it sounded like Maxine was just kind of walking,
Reptile.
like she was learning the lyrics as she went along, like she was singing so slow. As I push through all the hurt, like it was just something off about it. I didn't like it.
Like it was her first take.
Right.
She's a one-take wonder.
That is only reserved for Beyonce.
He's being nice because Maxine sang lead on it. If had anybody else sang lead on it, we would get a real critique.
No, I mean, I had, like, that song is on my, you know, Apple Music thing. Like, I don't know, it's not a great song at all. The production is horrible, but there's something about it. I think it could have been a good song if it were, like, produced better.
I agree. I mean, the theme of this show for 3 seasons has always been that a lot of the issues with In Vogue's latter music is the production quality. That's always been the problem. Like, ladies will give you good vocals. They will always go into a studio and kill it. But it's just the production is always subpar sometimes. And it sucks.
I think we're going to do this next segment really quickly. It's a new segment. It's called Final Thought, and I'll be giving the final thought today. This is just something for our listeners to ponder over. And so I'll ask a rhetorical question for y'all to think about. And my question is, do you think there is a certain age that En Vogue should retire? And y'all can just think about that and answer the question. You know, you can send a letter, you can write a comment, you can, you know, I guess call and leave a voicemail. I don't know to what number, but that is the final thought. Is there any age that you think En Vogue should retire?
Can't wait to hear you guys' answers.
Final thought of the day, y'all.
Yes. Thanks everybody for listening to another episode of Part of Us, an En Vogue Fancast. You can find Part of Us on Amazon Music, Audible, YouTube, Google Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts. Want some more En Vogue content? Check us out on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram at En Vogue Craze, and on Twitter at Part of Us Fancast. Remember to write us at partofusevf@gmail.com if you have any ideas, interview requests, comments, or questions. Thank you to my co-host for being here. It's late, but you know we're doing it. Shout out to Josh who wasn't able to make this episode, but we know he's gonna have some thoughts on some of the listener letters on the next episode. So until we meet again, bye you guys.
This episode of Part of Us at En Vogue Fancast was researched, written, produced, and edited by Matthew at Culture Inject Productions. The intro and outro music was produced by Wolves and Vincent Tone. We're more than just a podcast, we're a fan community. You can keep up to date on En Vogue and chat with other fans by visiting En Vogue Craze on Facebook. You can also follow us on YouTube and Instagram at En Vogue Craze and Twitter at Part of Us Fancast. Part of Us, an En Vogue Fancast, is not endorsed by En Vogue, E1 Music, or Invoke Records, and is intended for entertainment and educational purposes only. Invoke and its names, images, and audio clips are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of the respective copyright holders.
It happened.
That's and let me also say that this series is only a 6-episode miniseries.
Oh, the Janet Jackson one? The Janet Jackson one?
No, the Escape SWV.
Oh, it's a miniseries now. It's not a reality
show. It's just a miniseries.
It's only 6. No, it's only 6 episodes. Okay.
Well, yeah, they want the viewers. They don't want the viewers to eventually get to 0, so they have to cut it short early.
No, because it's about a tour
Escape so much because they are so relevant
on TikTok with all the other animals and bears and cooking.